Welcome back. We have made it to day 7, and day 7 is super exciting. I love talking about this one, how to fail forward. It's so important. You know, the roadblock would be that we fail and quit. The roadblock would be that we see a failure as it means something about us, or it completely takes the wind out of our sails. What we're talking about today is crushing that roadblock by learning how to fail forward. You know, like our little friend here jumping over the rock. I could quit right here. That would be the easy thing to do, or I could say, I'm going to try it again. And then look at how happy we are when we get to the other side. When we fail forward, when we try again and we succeed, there's no feeling quite like that. I'm sure most of you know the story of Thomas Edison as he was creating the light bulb. I can't remember how many different filaments he tried, but it was in the thousands. He tried all these different materials. He'd put them into a bulb and he'd run electricity through them, and all he had was an idea. There was no proof that if he ran electricity through a specific filament that it would create a light bulb. It was just an educated guess that he had. And he was so convinced that he was right that he tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. And ultimately he was able to create the light bulb. So this is that quintessential story of failing forward. But for just a moment, really visualize what that would be like to be Thomas Edison. Imagine that you have this idea and you say, you know, I bet that if I ran electricity through this little coil, through some type of material, that it would light up and create this light bulb. Nobody's ever done it before, and you try one material and it fails, and you're like, no problem. You try another material and it fails. Okay, that sucks. Try another one, another one, another one, another one, another one, and just failure after failure after failure. See, Thomas Edison had a fail forward mindset. He recognized that every time he put in a new filament and it didn't work, that he was one step closer to the next one. There's a lot of people out there that would have said, man, I've tried 300 of them and none of them have worked. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should go do something else, right? Everybody's saying, this isn't going to work, move on. But when we have a fail forward mentality, and when we have a desire, a meaningful desire within ourselves that we want to pursue, then there's no stopping us. Yeah, okay, I fell, but I'm going to get back up and I'm going to do it again because I believe so strongly in what it is that I'm trying to create that I'm going to fail forward. When we're talking about failing forward, it's really less about an action. It's kind of an action, but more so it's a mindset. And that's why today's challenge, the worksheet that I gave you guys, is all about reflection, and it's about thinking, and it's about changing the way that we are looking at failure. So think back to your life. Was there ever a moment where you ran into a brick wall or it felt like a brick wall and you gave up? I know I have. I'm sure we all have. We've all failed and said, well, this sucks, and we bail and we walk away from it. So ultimately, when we fail and we walk away from it, we lose the opportunity to continue to grow. Now, sometimes it makes sense. We fail and we're like, yeah, that was stupid. I shouldn't do that anymore, right? But if we're talking about a failure, just think about a failure that we're pushing through, a failure that's worth pushing through. So think of what would be possible for you if you were able to create a meaningful desire, something that you really passionately want to pursue. You have an emotional connection to it. You have a game plan, and you run into your first roadblock, the first thing that's stopping you from creating all of this. Think of what's possible if you looked at that and you said, yes, I failed, but I believe in this so much, I'm going to go again. And you fail again, and you move forward again, and you fail again, and you move forward again. Every single time you run into one of those failures, if you choose to look at it this way, if you choose to set your mindset to a setting where every time you fail, that is just an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn. It's not a failure. If you can put your mindset in that position, you will fail forward. You will continue to fail, and every time there is a mistake or something that doesn't go the right way, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for growth, to learn, to make yourself better, to make the people around you better, to do it differently, to figure out a new path, to refine your process and refine what it is that you're trying to create. Now, with that said, if we think back to Thomas Edison, is it possible that he got he got upset from time to time that he tried to create this and he's on the whatever number of materials and it's still not working? Of course there was frustration. Of course there was a little bit of anger. Of course he didn't like losing. We don't have to appreciate, or we don't have to love the loss, be like, yeah, this is great. But it is important to appreciate the loss, to understand that even though we failed, it doesn't make us a bad person. It doesn't mean that we are a failure. It just means that we've run into a roadblock and we're going to smash through it just like we have all of these other roadblocks over the last 7 days. So in challenge number 7, our roadblock is that failure is a failure. And I'm saying that we should look for ways to fail forward. So what's the process for actually failing forward? So the first thing that we have to do is we have to give ourselves permission to fail, right? Because when we don't allow ourselves to fail, we hold on to a lot of energy that we use to beat ourselves up and, call ourselves stupid and dumb, or, it just brings all this negative, destructive energy into our life. It's a distraction. The other day I was out front shooting hoops with my son, and this was the second day in a row where he wasn't making as many shots as he wanted. And so he started getting really frustrated and he's slamming the ball on the ground and he's crying and he's like, I just can't make anything, and he's beating himself up. See, he hadn't given himself permission to miss. And so he was taking all this energy and he was getting tense and he was holding on to this negativity. He was beating himself up. And of course, then he's missing more shots because he's tense and he's putting his energy into the wrong place. And so I went over to him and I said, listen, if you're going to be a basketball player, you have got to get comfortable with missing a lot of shots. I said, you've got to be prepared to miss 10,000 shots before you become a good shooter. Are you willing to do that? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, then you have to give yourself permission to fail. Once he understood that he has permission to fail, he now can go out and fail with confidence. You with me? We can fail with confidence. That's perfectly okay. And in fact, I would promote it. Let's go fail with confidence, right? Let's get out there and fail hardcore and learn from it. By allowing himself to fail, by allowing himself to miss a bunch of shots, since then, he's been able to shoot and not get nearly as frustrated because he has given himself permission to do that. That's part of the process. And now the beautiful thing is he gets to take that energy and put it into finding solutions. Which brings me to the second thing that we do to help fail forward. We give ourselves permission to fail so that we don't have to hold on to that negativity first. Second, we then start reflecting. We look back. Well, why am I missing all of those shots? Why is this not working? What can I be doing differently? So we start to reflect and we just start to get curious and find new ideas for how we could be doing things differently. And then, and keep in mind that we have that energy and we have that time and we have that open-mindedness because we're not beating ourselves up over our failure, because we give ourselves permission to screw it up. That's where that energy comes from. Then once we kind of start putting together some ideas of like, oh, it could be this, it could be that, then we just put together a game plan. All right, well, that wasn't working, so why don't we try this? And we go out and we try it. And maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. But once again, if we give ourselves permission to fail 10,000 times, eventually it is only a matter of time. If you give yourself permission to do that and you keep refining your process, you will create the most successful version of yourself. You will create the life that you desire. And in the end, that's the most important piece of this entire process. So today's challenge is there's a worksheet where you guys have an opportunity to reflect on some kind of challenge that you have, some kind of failure that you see, and to give yourself permission to fail at whatever that is, number one. Number two, see if you can find a new solution. And number three, go out and execute and then refine it and keep refining it and refining it. So challenge number 7, like all of these, can be a challenge that you do in a day, but really they're more lifestyles. They're mindsets. We're changing the way that we're doing things. And so this is something that you can play around with for a day, for a week, for a year, for a lifetime. How can you continue to see your failures as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for refinement, one step closer to where you really want to be? So that's it for the 7-day challenge. Stick around. I've got a summary video that I'm going to shoot next, so make sure you check that one out. Good luck as you look to fail forward. I can't wait to see the progress that you make as you give yourself permission to fail fantastically. as you create the life that you deserve. I'll see you soon.